Prasa Chief Engineer Scandal. The Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa, Prasa, has long stood as a symbol of public service infrastructure, entrusted with moving millions of commuters daily. Yet during a critical period in its history, the organization became synonymous not with efficiency and progress, but with scandal and institutional decay. At the center of one of its most damaging controversies was the so-called Chief Engineer Scandal, a case that exposed deep failures in governance, accountability, and ethical leadership. This environment created fertile ground for abuse. Oversight mechanisms were compromised, and whistleblowers were sidelined. Instead of serving as a professional transport authority, Prasa increasingly reflected the broader crisis of state-owned entities where political protection often outweighed competence and integrity. And Tim Kalu's ascent within Prasa appeared, on the surface, to be a story of rapid professional success. He occupied influential technical roles and was eventually presented as a senior engineering authority within the organization. His proximity to executive leadership and his confident command of technical language helped solidify his standing. However, this rise was not built on transparent processes or verified competence. Instead, it relied heavily on internal patronage networks and the absence of rigorous vetting. His career progression reflected how institutional weakness can elevate individuals beyond their true capabilities. When it was revealed that Mthimkhulu's qualifications were fraudulent. Degrees and engineering credentials he claimed to possess simply did not exist. Despite holding positions that required deep technical expertise, he lacked the formal training and professional registration necessary for such responsibility. This revelation raised serious questions about PRSA's human resources systems. How could an individual with fake qualifications rise to such a senior technical role in a safety-critical organization? The answer lay in systemic negligence and deliberate blindness at multiple levels of management. New train scandals. The consequences of unqualified leadership became most evident in the new train procurement program. Billions of rands were spent on locomotives that were unsuitable for South Africa's rail infrastructure. Technical specifications were ignored, warning signs dismissed, and expert objections overridden. The involvement of an unqualified chief engineer in decisions of this magnitude symbolized the rot within the institution. What should have been a transformative investment in public transport became a textbook example of waste, mismanagement, and compromised decision-making. Media and public interest. Once the story broke, media scrutiny was relentless. Investigative journalists uncovered layers of deception, political interference, and administrative failure. Public outrage grew as commuters, already suffering from unreliable rail services, realized that incompetence at the top had tangible consequences for their daily lives. The scandal became more than a story about one individual. It became a national conversation about governance, accountability, and the cost of corruption in state institutions. Arrest and conviction. Law enforcement eventually intervened. Mthimkhulu was arrested, prosecuted, and convicted on charges related to fraud and misrepresentation. The conviction marked a rare moment of accountability in a landscape where many similar scandals had ended without consequences. While the legal outcome provided some measure of justice, It also highlighted how much damage had already been done financially, operationally, and reputationally.
You are in custody from now. There is no bail any longer. Do you understand that?
Faking at least 4 degrees, so former Prasa executive Daniel Mtimkulu appointed as head of engineering at Prasa.
Daniel Mtimkulu is our top engineer on rolling stock in the country. It's Dr. Mtimkulu. We invested in him. Many companies in the world wants to have his services, wants to employ him. And I'm very proud that we're being able to keep. He's been leading the team that entered into design process, not only with Transnet, the RSR, but with he's been spending half of his time in Spain in the design of these locomotives.
He joined Prasa as an intern in 2002, and by 2010 he was appointed the head engineer after claiming to hold several degrees, including a doctorate in engineering management from Munich University.
In his CV, he stated basically that he's got all of these qualifications from VAL, from Wits University, and that he obviously obtained a doctoral degree. So that charge of that fourth count basically revolved around that CV, which was also, a fraudulent document. After it came about, that he was a fraud. The whole thing was in the media. Then Prasa actually requested him to provide proof, of his academic qualification, and then he produced those two documents, which actually turned out that it was in fact fraudulent documents. So the University of Val Technology actually acknowledged that he was indeed a student there, but he actually never got to complete those qualifications.
He also lied about receiving a job offer from German company, which saw his salary balloon by over R1 million.
It was basically a fraudulent document which was presented to Prasa, and then Prasa made him a counter offer of 2.8 million.
In 2015, Very Tall Trains ultimately revealed his very tall tales about his qualifications. He was fired after sourcing locomotives that didn't meet the South African specs, which also raised questions about his qualifications. Mtimkulu was first convicted in 2019 as Prasa sought to recover its money, and the court ordered that he repay its 5.5 million rand. Once considered the most qualified engineer at Prasa, Mtimkulu will remain behind bars for now.
Moral of the story and conclusion. The Prasa chief engineer scandal offers a stark moral lesson. Institutions are only as strong as their commitment to integrity. When qualifications are not verified, when oversight is ignored, and when political loyalty replaces professional competence, failure becomes inevitable. This scandal was not merely about fake degrees. It was about a system that allowed deception to flourish. The lesson for South Africa and for all public institutions is clear. Transparency, accountability, and merit are not optional ideals. They are essential safeguards against the collapse of public trust.